is a very good example of how every little thing in Vermeer's, every little point, every little mark has a meaning and has a purpose. Nothing is left to chance.
Vermeer's masterwork, The Music Lesson, clearly shows that nothing is left to chance. On the far side of a sunlit room, a woman stands playing a virginal. A man in elegant dress watches her and listens intently. Both figures are quiet, as though the music were measured and restrained. This is one of the most refined of Vermeer's works. He carefully calculated every aspect of its composition. The figures, the musical instruments, the mirror, table, tile patches and chairs, however realistically presented, are conceived as interlocking patterns of color and shape.
It's a message to us.
Vermeer designs his paintings so brilliantly, so carefully, that every part of the painting, every drop of paint, every line, every nuance of color has a deliberate meaning.
The rather unusual garment the lady is wearing has
A deliberate meaning.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Now we have an opportunity to move toward national health insurance with an emphasis on the prevention of disease, an emphasis on outpatient care, not inpatient care, an emphasis on hospital cost containment to hold down the cost of hospital care for those who are ill, an emphasis on catastrophic health insurance so that if a family is threatened with being wiped out economically because of a very high medical bill, then the insurance would help pay for it. These are the kind of elements of a national health insurance important to the American people. Governor Reagan, again, typically is against such a proposal.
Governor, there you go again.
Johannes Vermeer was a painter of light. Was a painter of light. He lived and worked in Delft, in the heart of the Netherlands. But little else is known about this artist. The names of his masters, the nature of his training, the period of his apprenticeship all remain mysteries.
Again.
But little else is known about this artist. The names of his masters, the nature of his training, the period of his apprenticeship all remain mysteries. He left no letters, sketches, or drawings. We know only of his genius. His paintings have intrigued and fascinated viewers for centuries. The themes he chose to paint were those he encountered in daily life. A girl reading a letter in the center of a sunlit room. A figure at work. A woman pouring milk. A girl in a red hat. But little else is known about this artist. The names of his masters, the nature of his training, the period of his apprenticeship all remain mysteries.
Again.
A girl in a red hat, her lips parted, her eyes lit with expectation, looking at us. What is it that draws us in? Is it the poetry and power of the images, the use of reflected light, the saturation of color, the softness and yet brilliance of the image?
The rather unusual garment the lady is wearing has
A deliberate meaning.
A girl in a red hat, her lips parted, her eyes lit with expectation, looking at us. What is it that draws us in? Is it the poetry and power of the images, the use of reflected light, the saturation of color, the softness and yet brilliance of the image, or the sense of timelessness, its mystery and meaning? The celebration of ordinary tasks and daily life filled with quiet contemplation. The frozen moment in time, its intimacy and mood. A room filled with inner thoughts. Or is it simply the virtuosity of an extraordinary craftsman? What is it that makes a Vermeer a Vermeer?
Vermeer designs his paintings so brilliantly, so carefully, that every part of the painting, every drop of paint, every line, every nuance of color has a deliberate meaning.
In the original Vermeer, the music lesson, painted sometime around the mid-1660s, there's a well-known Latin phrase on the lid of the virginal, which is a simple form of harpsichord. Musica laetitia Comes Medicina Dolorum. Music is a companion to joy and a medicine for pain. But the artist has hidden certain letters behind the young lady playing the instrument. Why? Which suggests the spacing between the letters, it's called kerning in the industry, should be like this. But then the CO is off compared to the rest of the word. And that calls into question all the kerning in the entire phrase that Vermeer painted. It simply makes no sense. I mean, an artist who goes to such enormous lengths to get every minute detail of his masterpiece perfect cannot have made such an elementary mistake. It ignores all the laws of balance and design prevalent at the time. Obviously, the lettering, equally spaced, should look like this. Here are some examples of that same phrase on virginals that observe those basic rules. The same phrase there. Here are other phrases of the time equally perfectly spaced. And this is not hard to comprehend. It's design 101. This one's a genuine original from the period built by Andreas Ruckers, the assumed creator of Vermeer's. Here's his nameplate, perfectly kerned and balanced. So why does Vermeer commit such a blunder?
You have no idea what's going on.
So why does Vermeer commit such a blunder? There can only be one reason. It's intentional. It means something. Those letters that are not seen were hidden for a reason.
Sky's crying. Can't you see the tears roll down the street? The sky's crying. Can't you see the tears roll down the street? Well, I've been looking for my baby, and I wonder where can she be?